Welcome to Films and Stuff with your hosts, Pete Mitchell and Ethan Hunt.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to a new episode of Films and Stuff. I am Ethan, joined by the ever-present Pete. Hey, Pete. Good morning.
Morning, buddy. How are you?
Everything is great. You know what day today is? Today is Stream or Skip Review Day. I always introduce you. You give a summary of what are the rules of the Stream or Skip segment. So without further ado, my friend, I shall turn over to you, and please eloquently, in 20 seconds or less, remind our listeners what this is all about.
Thank you. So Ethan and I have prepared lists of TV shows and movies for each other to watch. Every week, we randomly assign each other one of those shows, and we have to watch at least 2 episodes if it's a series or 30 minutes if it's a movie. And on that basis, we determine if that show or movie is worthy of being streamed or skipped.
Absolutely correct. Well done. Where are we this week? I had an assignment from Apple TV Plus called City on Fire. And this is the second week in a row I had something on Apple TV Plus. Last week I had Sunny, which I gave a must subscribe. And 2 weeks prior to that, I had Bad Monkey with my man Vince Vaughn on Apple TV Plus, which I also gave a must subscribe. So I'm kind of, no pun intended, on fire with my Apple TV Plus ratings. So when you gave me City on Fire this week, I guess I was probably predisposed to expect this was going to be quite good. And not really a spoiler alert, it was great. I gave City on Fire a must subscribe as well. That's 3 out of the past 4 weeks. I'm coming on strong, huh?
You've got a hot streak going on.
Let me summarize what is City on Fire. I had not heard of this. In terms of the cast, the most famous cast member is Jemima Kirk. Do you know who this is? You may
Maybe not by name.
She was in the show Girls.
Okay.
I think that's what she's most well known for. She's probably the only person that I've heard of in this cast, but the cast is actually quite good. And to give you a little bit of a setup of the show, in a way, she and her husband and her father are a little bit like the family in Succession. They own some type of kind of like anonymous company, and it's not really about the company. It's just about the fact that they are, kind of a very wealthy industrial, type family, right? Her father is kind of like the CEO or the chairman of the company. She is the daughter. She has a brother who I guess is adopted. And then she has a husband who's involved in the family business. And then she has another brother who is estranged, kind of the black sheep, a little bit like Roman. Yeah, remember
Okay.
Romulus from Succession? A little bit of the black sheep. He's living in Manhattan, but he is an artist slash painter slash rock star, so forth. The first 30 minutes started very, very slow. So much so that if I had to stop it, I would have given it a skip. It was really slow, and that's because it kind of focused on the B plot before it kind of got to the A plot. And I'm not going to give away too many spoilers because it's a pretty dynamic story where the A and the B plot kind of all combine, similar to, I always use Crash as kind of the example where you're watching kind of like 4 different independent stories and you know that somehow they're all linked, but until they play out towards the end, you're not really sure how they're linked, right? But everyone kind of must know each other. They start off with the B plot, and the B plot is a little bit dull. It's kind of like I don't want to say a high school girl, someone who's kind of like beginning university at NYU. And, she kind of befriends this very quiet, kind of loner, kind of somewhat depressive dude who's also kind of the young college age. And she's like this very dynamic, loves music and into the kind of the music scene in New York. And he's very never really gone out and needs to see a therapist about his like daddy issues and stuff. And that B plot I thought was just horrible for the first 30 minutes, you know? I mean, the kid has zero charisma. He's obviously social anxiety disorders. The girl is a little bit overacting to be so hip and cool, and their friendship doesn't even make sense. So I was very, very negative on it for the first 30 minutes. And then actually towards the end of the first episode, there was like some small reveal and it got interesting. And then kind of by episode 2 and 3, I was really into it. I watched all 8 episodes. I do give it a must subscribe. And I think it's a pretty dynamic story. If you like Succession and that idea of the family with a lot of different characters, a little bit of kind of backstabbiness, but without the extraordinary vulgarity and without kind of the extraordinary, like, I mean, Succession was funny because kind of everyone was like so incompetent in business that it was like a little bit of a parody, right? Like, how can this company possibly survive? Everyone is not really doing any work. They're just all awful people, right? This is a little bit more serious in terms of the business element, maybe a little bit like Industry, which we saw on HBO.
Yeah.
But there's a good amount of family drama slash backstabbing slash backstory, you know, history being revealed and flashbacks and stuff like that. I gave it a must subscribe. I think it's quite good. Of all the must subscribes, I wouldn't say that this is life-changing, but I would say that it's a very, very good, cohesive story, keeps you guessing, does a very good job of kind of putting in some of the A, the B, the C plots in a very cohesive way. Makes sense. Not a lot of humor. I mean, Succession, I think, is known for having a lot of like quotable lines, you know, funny scenes. This isn't really a funny story. I can't really remember any time that I laughed out loud or I found like any levity in it. But the story is actually quite good. And they also do something great by not focusing too much on like the kids. You know, like sometimes you see a little bit too much emphasis on kind of like the kids and the marital stuff and like this home drama.
Yeah.
There is a bit of that, but it's not overwhelming. It's more of a, I'd say it's kind of more of a Succession mystery, if you will. But it was quite well done, and I have to say, despite my initial reservations, I quite got into it by the end. So that is City on Fire, taking place in the great city of Manhattan on Apple TV Plus. I recommend you take a look at it.
Okay. Oh, I'm definitely in. I'll definitely give it a go. I mean, unfortunately, it's only one season, but I'll definitely give it a go.
Yeah, usually the one season is a death knell for you.
Unless it's a mini series, but yeah.
All right. So that was me. What do you have this week?
I had a movie on Netflix called Rebel Ridge. So Rebel Ridge is about like the best way I could think of it is that it's a little bit like Rambo, right? It's about this
Yeah.
one man stuck against a corrupt institution. And in this case, it's not the military industrial complex. It's literally a small town sheriff that has done what I guess is called, you know, when they take your money away, what's it called?
I do know what that's called. What is the word though?
Yeah, it's on the tip of my tongue. Anyway, the point is this army guy comes into town to bail out his brother from jail.
Yeah,
And that's why he has cash on him. He gets pulled
that's right.
over, and the cash gets taken away by the police because they think that he's there to do shady things with that money.
Yeah.
And that's obviously not the case. What they don't know is that he's a military guy, he's desperate, And so he basically becomes this lone wolf guy who goes on a rampage to get that money back so that he can bail his brother out. And it's very much similar to, I think it was Rambo 3. I can't remember, where he has a standoff with like the local corrupt sheriff. And in this case, the
It
local
is
corrupt
Rambo.
sheriff is played by Don Johnson of Miami Vice fame. It's interesting. Look, this is what I would think of as your classic Netflix made for TV movie. This is not a movie I don't think that would have gone for a cinematic release. It's relatively low budget. Interesting fun piece of trivia. It was supposed to star John Boyega. He filmed about half of it and then stormed off the set apparently.
Oh,
And
really?
who knows if this is true or not. But the rumors are is he left halfway through production and they had to reshoot the entire movie with the new guy.
You don't know why?
No idea.
What rating did you give the show or the movie?
So yeah, the movie, it's not bad, it's not great. It's something you can definitely keep on in the on in the background as you're doing,
Yeah.
couch surfing, you're checking out your emails, you're
Yeah.
having a chat with someone else. Some of the action sequences are pretty good, the fight sequences are pretty decent.
Yeah.
You can tell it's a relatively low budget, and I'm not saying poor production values, but in when you have this kind of setting in a small town, you don't need to spend a lot of money to have it look not bad.
No.
And that's what
Yeah.
this has done. I
Yeah.
I don't know what the budget for this movie is, but if it's in the multiple of tens of millions of dollars, I'll be blown away.
Yeah. Because even Don Johnson, while there was a time in 1985 when he was People Magazine's sexiest man and, commanded a very high salary for Miami Vice. And I bet he made like $50,000 an episode. And at the time it was
At
like,
most.
right? I mean, now he is definitely not commanding huge salaries. I have to say, I liked a few things about this movie. There were also some things that made me uncomfortable. I mean, it's got very, like, racism is a huge, not even an undertone, it's an overtone, right? And I have to say, I was a little bit uncomfortable with like the blatant racism. And I'm also always curious how actors like, Don Johnson, for example, comes to grips with someone who's like, hey, we got a role for you. You've got to play a raging racist. Are you okay with that? Because I'm not sure that, I mean, I know acting is a job and, you're not the character that you're playing, but I have to say, I'm not sure if I would always be comfortable, playing someone like kind of so despicable or so deplorable, right?
Yeah.
So that was one of the things is that the racism was really kind of ugly here. Whereas like you rightly compared to this to the old Sylvester Stallone, Rambo. Rambo wasn't really such a racist movie as it was more like classist. Like they were
Yeah,
they were
kind of.
they were anti-Rambo because he was kind of like poor, like wanderer, veteran,
Yeah.
but it wasn't, I think it was Brian Dennehy was like the town sheriff, like Brian Dennehy's white, Rambo is white. It wasn't really a racist. It was more of a, hey, you're a down on your luck veteran, for that reason, there was some ugliness in that movie. So I was a little bit unhappy with the racist stuff. But then also kind of bizarrely, towards the middle end, Don Johnson somehow is justified, like the greater good of what he's really trying to do in the face of like budget cuts, and the word you're looking for is seizure of the asset, right?
Or
So
civil asset forfeiture. I
yeah.
thought of it in the middle of it. Yeah.
So I mean, there's kind of like this attempt not to like justify his racism, but to justify like his actions, like, oh, I'm supporting the whole this is in New Orleans, so they're called like, what are they called? Like prefectures or something, parishes, right? So
Sure.
there's some attempt to kind of like justify what he's doing, which I think falls a little bit flat.
It does, because the reason that they were going broke as a county was because that the police force was corrupt and was like
Yeah.
found guilty
Yes.
in a previous case of
Yeah.
overzealous policing.
Yeah. I mean, the whole thing was a little bit ugly. He's like, look, I've got to steal money and I've got to be a gun runner because I'm paying for, this elderly lady's medicine and so forth. And it was like, uh, it kind of falls short. But I like the idea that I mean, I think that whoever is the dude, right, who took the place of John Boyega, I thought he was very good in terms of acting. He definitely seems like kind of like an ex-Marine, like he's
Yeah,
big and pretty built, good fighter. Like he could definitely pull off multiple, maybe not a trilogy, but I mean, definitely there could be a sequel with him as this character. He could be kind of like this generation's Rambo because I think he pulls it off pretty well.
yeah,
I just wish there was a better hook than kind of like the small town racist sheriff.
yeah.
It'd be better if he was kind of like a vigilante, like, hey, I'm coming after, my cousin got involved in the wrong crowd. I'm coming after the drug dealer. I'm coming after the crime boss, or I'm, a little bit more of like the Denzel Washington equalizer role,
Right.
or in who's the other dude who has a certain set of skills? I can't remember his name, right?
Liam Neeson?
Yeah, Qui-Gon Jinn.
Yeah.
So I wish there was a better hook, and maybe if there's going to be a sequel, it will be a better hook, and he'll be like more of a vigilante or like standing up for people's rights. I love the girl in it, by the way, like the lady who kind of like befriends him, who works
Yeah.
at kind of like I thought she was fantastic in that role, like perfectly cast, seemed like very genuine in her role. So, I mean, definitely I think you're right in how we saw this movie. I mean, it's a good Netflix movie. It's exactly what they should be. Instead of, remember we saw that one with not Red Notice, the other one with
The Rock.
Heart of Stone, something
Oh
like that,
yeah, that with Gal Gadot.
right?
Yeah.
Instead of making that for 150 million, or even Gray Man with Ryan Gosling, instead of making those for like 150, 200 million, or God forbid, the stupid one with J-Lo, where she basically pilots
A
a
Titanfall
boat.
mech. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was horrible. Instead of spending 150 million or 200 million on those, I would love them to make 5 of these Rebel Ridge movies,
Yeah.
Like maybe not all Ridge 1 through 5, but similar to this, it's better entertainment value for me.
Yeah, I think so. I think you get a couple of things, right? You get an opportunity to do smaller scale movies. And I think the problem with big scale movies is, or not the problem, but the reality with big scale movies is that they're a swing. And if you miss huge, right?
Huge.
As you did with the J-Lo. And ultimately, I would much rather, instead of swinging for the fences every time, which is what a lot of these streaming platforms tend to do, is go for the single, go for the double, go for an RBI. You don't need to be fancy with it. Get on base. And these guys aren't focused on getting on base anymore. I think that's one of the hallmarks of what Netflix used to do was they said, hey, listen, let's not spend so much money. Let's make a bunch of content. They've kind of gotten away from that.
Yeah.
And I think this is the kind of thing they should be doing because every 4 or 5 movies where they're spending a total of 60, $70 million, maybe even $100 million, one of them is bound to do very well that you could say, hey, you know what? All of a sudden, this became a breakout hit for us. This guy who was a relative nobody, again, no disrespect. Then you can say, hey, you know what? This guy made a great movie. It was a breakout hit. Everyone's talking about it. Let's spend $40 million on the next one and make a bigger sequel. Or let's put him in the next sci-fi epic that we wanted.
With that as context, should we discuss Wolves on Apple TV Plus?
Yeah. So it's so funny we talk about that because
Yeah.
Wolves, just like Rebel Ridge,
Yeah.
pound for pound, should have been a relatively cheap movie to make,
Yeah.
right?
The only difference is the two main actors, they are way more expensive than Don Johnson.
So if you looked at Wolves, which by the way I love, so I mean just to get it
Yeah.
out there, for me Wolves is a must subscribe.
Yeah.
If you're looking at just the movie, which is what we do, we don't look at the
Yeah.
finances, we don't look at how successful these movies are.
Nope.
But if you're looking at just the movie, it had everything. It had a little bit of good action. It had
Mhm.
great chemistry between the two
Yeah.
leads.
Yeah.
It had great humor. The third lead, if you want to call him that, or co-star, was also very good. That young kid
Yeah.
was very
Yeah.
good in it. So I thought the casting was very good. I thought the story was
Yeah.
superb in the sense that it was super simple. It's such a simple story. It was made in such a way that if they ever want to do a sequel, they can very easily, but they
That's
don't
right.
need to if they don't want to.
Right.
All in all, it's what you want a streaming service to do.
Yeah.
Where it fell off the rails, again, this is now on a more strategic level, not on a movie level,
Yeah.
was how absurdly expensive this movie was. And it was absurdly expensive because
How much did it cost?
I don't know how much the whole movie cost. I just heard that Brad Pitt got paid $35 million. George Clooney got paid $35 million. The
It
director,
got like
Sean what,
500,000.
got paid $10 million. So between the two co-stars and the director, they
80
paid
million.
$80 million just for the three of them, not including any of the other cast, not including any of the other extras, not including any of the, production, the staff, the crew, none of them. Based on that alone, this is probably $120 million, maybe 100 million, 150, $120 million. That's expensive for this movie
Yeah.
under normal circumstances. And again, maybe I'm talking out of my butt, but like under normal circumstances, how could you have spent more than $20 million on this movie?
Pitt and Clooney, I think that Pitt's having a little bit of a renaissance because
Yeah,
he's going to be in the F1 movie next
yeah,
year. But generally, I think that Pitt is an A-list name, but he's not really an A-list actor anymore. And Clooney, I think, is kind of well past that, right? I mean, I know they're talking about like an Ocean's 18, but I think Clooney's way past that. So those guys, I think, are really not justifying 35 million a movie anymore. However, in some ways, there's like some alchemy and the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. Those two do have a very special charisma together,
yeah,
right? And
yeah.
and part of the reason that movie works, like they play off of each other really well, whether they're really friends in real life, which I think that they sincerely are. It would be tough for Brad Pitt to do that with anyone else, right? Like him and Steve Carell. Although to be honest, when I just said that out loud for the first time, that could actually probably work, right? John Cena and Clooney, that could probably work. Like,
Yeah, but that's probably more on Carell and Clooney than and Cena than it is,
yeah.
Uh,
So it could have worked. It's not like those two kind of had to keep everyone hostage, to for this amount, but
look, I'm going to push back a little bit. Normally we're on the same page. I don't think that they're past their A-list stars
Mhm.
stage. I actually think that Clooney and Brad Pitt, I would agree with you. I think Clooney's golden era of A-list stardom
Yeah,
was the Fight Club, Mr. and Mrs. Smith era,
yeah.
that era. And I think Clooney
Roy.
was around that same time,
Yeah.
Oceans 11, 12, 13, whatever. I think what's happened is for both of them, they've kind of transcended Hollywood stardom a little bit, right? Because Clooney got married to Amal. He's kind of like he was doing a lot of this like UN work with Syria, etc. And Brad Pitt got married to Angelina Jolie, and they were kind of like super famous. That fame kind of took on its own persona outside of the movies. So I don't want to call them like S-list, like super tier, but in the
Yeah.
sense that they kind of transcended that we're just movie star status.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably why they can come in or can get paid. I mean, anyone
Yeah.
can ask for whatever they want to ask, but in
Yeah.
terms of actually getting paid it, I think that's probably why they can go to Apple and say, well, if you want us together in a movie, it's going to cost you 70 million bucks.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, like Vince Vaughn, who I like more than both of those. If you put Vince Vaughn in place of Brad Pitt, it has a different vibe, right?
A
You know,
hundred
like Vin,
percent.
you know, but I mean, definitely you could do it would be a little bit sillier if it were Vince Vaughn and John Cena. It may be actually just as good of a movie, but it would
Yeah.
definitely have a little bit of a less serious vibe.
I think what it is both of these guys are also kind of like the stereotype or even like the prototype of what it means to be a Hollywood classical star leading
Yeah,
man. When you think of dashing Hollywood charismatic leading men, I
yeah,
still think of George Clooney and Brad Pitt more than I think of Vince Vaughn and Steve Carell and Paul Rudd. And by the way, I'm not saying that's because I think they're more handsome or less handsome. I just think they have that charisma and they have that air about them.
yeah. I mean, Clooney, I agree with you that he's kind of transcended and known for almost everything more than his IMDb list, right?
And to be frank, that's kind of where Brad Pitt was too. He may not be as financially successful, but in that sense, I think Brad Pitt was also known as first he was dating and married to Jennifer Aniston.
Yeah.
He's also
Well,
been linked
even before that, Gwyneth Paltrow.
Gwyneth Paltrow. He was, I think, dating Shania Twain at one point. Like he's always been linked to like really famous, very highly attractive stars of entertainment.
Yeah, you're right, dude. You're right. Okay. That is our big review of Wolves as well, but that's not all. We've got one more thing to discuss. Megalopolis by Francis Ford Coppola, starring Adam Driver, Juan Carlo Esposito, Nathalie Emmanuel. I saw it. You did not.
It's not even out or available to me.
Before I go into my review, what have you heard about this movie and what is your like interest in it?
I've heard that this has been an absolute nightmare to fund. I've heard that it's you're either going to think it's the best movie ever made or the worst movie ever made. And I heard that Francis Ford Coppola basically had to sell his vineyard to make it.
Yeah. So I was in Istanbul and I just was randomly looking at what was out and I saw Megalopolis, which I had heard of, but I could not have told you anything about the plot. I knew it was Francis Ford Coppola, and to be honest, he's got enough credibility, clout with me or brand recognition that I'm like, oh man, I bet that's going to be great. It's got a cool title. I mean, the cover art is fantastic. I was just assuming, without knowing anything about this story, I was assuming this was just going to be a fantastic movie. And spoiler alert, well, technically it's a skip, but realistically it's an incomplete. I left at intermission. In Turkey, they have intermission where they stop the movie more or less halfway through, and everyone can take a toilet break, get more popcorn, and so forth. I bolted. I bolted. As soon as the lights came up, it wasn't even the kind of like back and forth, should I or shouldn't I? Like I was out of there. I didn't see the second half. The first half was horrible. Is it the worst first half of a movie I've ever seen? Possibly, absolutely. I mean, it is awful. And even if you look at the IMDb, I mean, this cast is just insane. Adam Driver, Juan Carlos Esposito, Nathalie Emmanuel, Aubrey Plaza, Shia LaBeouf, Jon Voight, Lawrence Fishburne, Jason Schwartzman. Man, that is an insane, insane cast. That's not even getting to kind of like the DB Sweeney's and Bailey Ives and Balthazar Getty's and I mean, that is a crazy cast. But if you look at the character names, I don't know, maybe Coppola, maybe he's lost it because I mean, Adam Driver's name or character is Caesar Catalina. Juan Carlos Mayor Cicero. Julia Cicero. Aubrey Plaza plays someone named Wow Platinum. Claudio Pucher. Milton Crassus III. Fundi Romaine. Constant Crassus Catalina. And this is what it says in IMDb in terms of the summary of the movie, right? The city of New Rome, i.e. New York, hosts the conflict between Caesar Catalina, a brilliant artist in favor of a utopian future, and the greedy mayor Franklin Cicero. Between them is Julia Cicero, her loyalty divided between her father and her beloved. It is a crazy, crazy, crazy movie, I have to say. It makes no sense. It seems to be a love letter to the Academy, but in terms of the storyline, in terms of having a coherent vision, in terms of being something that's not a outright political statement or having some type of second meaning, it was horrible to me from just pure enjoyment or entertainment value.
So just to back that up, the film's been out for basically a week. It has made against a budget of $120 million, which again, Francis Ford Coppola had to sell his winery to finance.
120, though, to be fair, seems pretty reasonable for a movie these days.
Yeah, unless you have to foot the bill yourself.
Unless you have to foot the bill yourself.
And it has made so far $6.3 million at the time of recording.
It made $6 million worldwide?
Yeah, 5% of its budget.
$6 million?
Yeah. So I don't think you're on your own. Whatever it is, maybe a lot of people haven't walked out of the movie, but certainly not a lot of people have gone into the movie.
I don't know how there were only 6 million. The reviews have been generally horrible. Apart from some people who appreciate his artistic and the statement that he's making, in terms of story, I haven't read any review that said this is a great story. They've said Adam Driver plays this very neurotic weirdo very well. And, there's this great underlying, message or, it's a great parody of New York and modern culture, blah, blah, blah. But I haven't read any review that's like, it's a pretty good movie. It's a really entertaining movie. No.
I mean, look, kudos to Francis Ford Coppola. He's been wanting to make this movie forever. He wrote it, he directed it, he financed it, and it was important enough for him to do it regardless of the commercials. Again, you got to give credit for that, right? Like if you strongly believe in your vision and you're willing to basically upend your entire life to do it, I mean, that's in terms of the artistry of making a movie, that's great. But at some point, practicality has to come into play too, right? At some point, you have to think, is it worth me selling or basically taking out $120 million in cash and lighting it on fire, which is effectively what he's done.
I mean, the thing you and I have discussed is that sometimes you become so big and larger than life that you're surrounded by people that play into your ego And everyone wants to be in a Coppola movie, so they probably read the script, they're like, oh my God, that's amazing, right? Shia LaBeouf is probably like, I need to be in a movie like this. Amazing, your vision, you're so right. John Voight, who hasn't been in anything, hasn't been relevant. Amazing, I'll do it. Dustin Hoffman, Lawrence Fishburne. Are these folks just saying like, this is incredible? You're such a visionary. I'd love to be in this. It's my dream. I'll do anything. But I feel like no one has the balls to say to him, say, look, you've got something here. You need to tone it down a little bit.
Yeah.
Like this is just crazy. You're giving everyone like even more and more like bonkers names. Like Aubrey Plaza says, does my name really have to be Wow Platinum? Like people have to refer to me by my first name, Wow. Like you can give me like a facetious name, right? But like, do I have to be Wow Platinum? Just the amount of absurdity I think that he forced all his cast to be in. No one could stand up. Like Jason Schwartzman couldn't say, look, this is a little bit over the top. Like let's dial it back a little bit. Like I know what you're trying to do, but like sometimes a parody just becomes a parody of itself. And I felt like this is just, it was so bonkers that it couldn't even be taken seriously. I mean, to be honest, I'm not a huge Adam Driver fan, mostly because of Star Wars.
Yeah.
But I mean, I admire his dedication to the role. But I mean, he was just, I wouldn't say he was overacting, but he was just becoming like this. No one in real life, even if you want to be like a eccentric, with this huge hubris and ego, no one acts like this. No one eats grapes the way that he's eating grapes. No one is, like interacting with people. I mean, like that's just not realistic. And I wish that they would have dialed it back a little bit. He could have had a very good movie that had a statement. I mean, Coppola's absolutely capable of getting the best out of his cast, but like I feel like what he was asking them to do was so over the top. We get it. It's a political statement. We get it. It's supposed to be a parody, but I felt like it was a parody of itself at some point. Please watch the movie. I just need a second opinion on this. But like John Voight like lost all his dignity the way that he was acting in this movie, right? Like we get it. You're supposed to be, like the wealthy, like oligarch. Okay, it's fine. But no one really acts like this. You can still get the point across by being obnoxious. You don't have to be a parody of an obnoxious person. And I think
Right.
that's what bothered me the most is that there's a way to try to get your message across to your audience, but you don't have to like hit your audience over the head with it and say, you see what I'm doing here? I'm making a parody. You see what I'm trying to do here? I'm making a commentary on like, I get it. I get it. You don't have to like stick it in my face that everything is a parody about greed and money and power and so on and so forth, right? Like, I get it. Like, it's right here in front of me. But I felt like that was the insulting part is that he was so desperate to get his message across, is that he almost had everyone just overact and everything was just so much larger than life to get the point across, which is a pretty simple point that I didn't think we really had a problem understanding in the first place. This is an absolute skip. Like I said, it's actually technically an incomplete because I left halfway through, but it's actually a little bit sad in a way that, I mean, he couldn't get this film funded. And let's not forget why he couldn't get it funded. There was a pre-screening at a film festival and no distributor picked it up.
Yeah,
Everyone
that's right.
said, like, this is shit. No one's going to watch this movie.
He was also demanding that whoever picked it up spent an additional $120 million
Yeah.
to market it.
Yeah. And thank God for maybe the first time you and I can recall, Hollywood did something right, saying, hey, we're not going to pay for this.
Yeah.
And then he said, fine, okay, I'll pay for it. You guys put in your cinemas, I'll pay for everything.
Yeah.
And they're like, fine, we'll do it. Absolutely good deal for us. He spent his 120 million, but I mean, to get 6 back, that's pretty awful. It's going to get something, on streaming. Maybe they'll put it on Apple TV Plus and they'll, get another like, 10 million and there will be like some type of like ongoing, residuals. But again, I mean, it's almost taken on a life of its own because it's been so bad that it's going to kind of scare people off from streaming.
It'll make a big splash if and when it hits streaming, just because everyone will want to kind of see this train wreck.
Yeah, that's true.
But thereafter, I imagine it'll drop off pretty quick.
Yuck. Okay, so I think this was kind of a 4-for-1 stream or skip episode. We first of all talked about City on Fire, Rebel Ridge, and then we gave 2 reviews of Wolves and Megalopolis.
Mixed bag this week. 2 must subscribes, 1 mooch, and 1 incomplete/skip.
Yeah. Pete, what do we have on the horizon for next week, Streamer Skip?
All right. Well, next week you're on Netflix to watch a show called Bodkin.
No idea. What is this?
No idea, but again, this is something I've seen on my top 10 list consistently. And I am watching a new show on Apple TV Plus, so fingers crossed I get a win, called Women in Blue.
Oh, yeah. All right. Pete, you want to give our social media creds and what people should do when they like this episode?
Absolutely. So reach out to us, tweet at us at FNS Podcast, DM us on Instagram at Films and Stuff Podcast. But as always, the best thing you can do, hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, hit that notification bell, and leave a comment below.
No one says it better than you. Everyone, appreciate you turning in this week to the Stream or Skip segment. We will look forward to presenting for you once again next week on the Films and Stuff Podcast. Thank you, Pete. Thank you, listeners. Have a great week ahead.
Thanks, Ethan. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Films and Stuff. If you haven't already, please subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are downloaded. Films and Stuff. There is no substitute.